Hello everyone. This hour on Verbling, the next in my great short stories series, we're doing part 2 of Shirley Jackson's story, Charles. In this particular class, we're going to try to do the class in a slightly different way than before. We've read the beginning of the story, and then yesterday I gave you a set of questions. Some of those were for you to think about, and some were for you to write yourself. So based on your questions, whether you've done it or not, you can do it in class as well. We're going to have a discussion about the story and just read some parts which we think are important. So we'll be getting started in just a second. First, a little bit about me. I'm Jon-Eric, your Verbling teacher for this hour. I'm an American teacher from New York, hanging out in Lisbon, Portugal to bring you this class. By the way, here are 3 quick rules to help you participate. Don't forget to turn off, tune in, and open up. That means turn off your microphone when you're not speaking so we can keep the classroom nice and quiet. Also, tune in to the new words you're learning. Use them actively so that I can correct you and give you feedback. And finally, I know there's another rule here. Oh yeah, open up to your classmates. Relax and have fun. We're all here to learn, and this is a safe and respectful place to practice your English. I have a feeling you've all heard that before somewhere. Just a feeling. Hey, look at this. There's Shirley Jackson. Everyone see Shirley? Everyone wave hello to Shirley. Do you like her glasses? Can anyone hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
I thought I was alone for a second. What do you think about her glasses? They're cool, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah? Anyway, there she is. So, here's what I was going to do. I'd like to have a discussion about the story, but first I want to just make sure that everyone has more or less read the whole story. So, did everyone have a chance to read the entire story? It's really short.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
You too, Sylvia?
Yes.
Ah, okay, fantastic. Okay, great. At the very bottom of the screen, bottom of the document, I've got kind of, 3 exercises. The discussion questions, that was for you to think about after you read or during what you read. This vocabulary exercise that we can do together, because here I want to try to work on some skills. What can you do besides just enjoying the story? What can you do to help you get more out of what you're reading? So we'll look at this vocabulary exercise. It's something you can do whether or not a teacher gives you this exercise. We'll just look at it as a technique. And then finally, where it says summaries, I asked you to think about one question you could ask under those headings. If you've already created a question, great, share it with the class. If you haven't, pick one of those, particularly one that we haven't done, like context, what's the context of the story? Plot means the storyline. And see if you could ask one question that you feel you know the answer to, so that you can compare your answer to others in the class. All right? So, I don't know, what do you think? I'd actually like to start, so let me just finish by saying we're going to look at 2 skills, how to work with vocabulary, and also this story is all about surprise. So we're going to look a little bit also about how to make an educated guess, how to infer meaning, and how that will help you comprehend difficult language. So working on inferences and working on vocabulary. 2 things we're going to try to look at. I'd kind of like to start at the very end, where it says summaries. I'd like to hear some of your questions if you've had a chance to work on this. So I'm going to put that on the screen, right? But in the actual document, I can write your questions, or you could post them in the chat window if you like. So did anyone have a chance to create a question for the group based on any of the topics in the summaries? Just curious if anyone had a chance to do that.
Yes.
Fantastic.
Have one.
Excellent. Do you think you could actually write it in the chat window? You can ask it to the class, but do you think you could write it quickly?
Yes.
And then I will copy and paste it, and we'll put a permanent copy on the document. Okay, very good, very good. So let's do this. We're going to have a discussion based on your questions first, and then I'll ask some of my own. By the way, let's say just a quick hello to Sarah, who's joining us right now. Hello, Sarah.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
Very good. You're where? You're in Hong Kong?
No, I'm from China, Beijing.
Oh, in Beijing. Okay, fantastic. So, in the last class, we read about the first half of the story, Sarah.
Okay.
And yesterday, I sent out a worksheet, which you can see on screen, and I asked everyone to try to think of a few questions they could ask to each other in the class so that we could talk about the story.
Yes.
All right? So did you have a chance to read the story already?
Yeah, I just read it very quick.
Okay, no problem. No problem.
5 minutes, yeah.
Okay. Well, as long as you're familiar with it, we can give it a try. We can also read some of the passages as well. Okay, so let's start with Daniel's question. Daniel, which category would you put that question under? Context, plot, setting, conflict, character? Where would you put it?
I use two word, point of view,
Point of view. Let's put it there.
and conflict.
Well, it says point of view, so we'll use point of view for this one. Let's do it like that. Okay, so in the actual document, it's there. I'm just going to share. Oh, you know what? I can write it here too. Let me write it as well. Give me a second. I'll put it on the screen like this. There you go. Now we can see it. Okay, so let's go around. Let's see if we can ask each other questions. Daniel, you can address your question to the whole class, or you can put someone on the spot in particular.
Okay.
But go ahead. Ask your question to the class.
Shadow.
Shadow. Uh-oh, he's going to put you on the spot, Shadow. Go for it, Daniel.
Shadow, from your point of view, this story could be a big conflict in a family?
No, I don't think so, really.
Because?
Why?
Yeah, why?
I think this child has a problem in his mind, really. I don't know why. I think he maybe has a schizophrenia or something. When I read the story,
Schizophrenia. Oh my God, really?
I thought that because when I finished reading, he just imagines this guy. I don't know, it's a ghost like horror movies or something like that. I don't know really. So I think he just need to see a doctor.
If my child should do me something like that, I could be very scared.
You would be scared, Daniel.
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
But wait a second. You were the one who was saying, you're the one who figured out the story, right? Because you were the one in the class who said, "Oh, Charles is actually Laurie." Remember? You were the one who said that halfway through the story. Wasn't it you?
No. I read. I find out at the end of the story.
I was sure that one of you guessed right in the beginning and got it right, and I thought it was you.
I'm not.
What do you think? Let me open up to the class. What do you think about Daniel's question, or actually, and Shadow's response? Shadow thinks that Laurie is schizophrenic. What do you think?
Who, me?
No, anyone. I'm asking the class.
I think it's a good point. I think there is already hint in the middle of the story that there would be a conflict in terms of Charlie. every lunch a story about Charlie is a focus point among wife and among between wife and husband. They already they are getting anxious.
Anxious?
They are getting anxious about the influence from that boy Charlie to their child. So I think it,
Is that what you meant, by the way, Daniel?
I haven't read the text until end, but I have some expectation that there would be the conflict.
Ah. So, Daniel, is that what you meant by conflict? Yuki's talking about the conflict in the sense that the parents are really concerned about this Charlie character. Is that the conflict you were referring to, Daniel? Or were you, or because I had the idea you meant that there was another conflict going on that was causing Laurie to act in this way? In other words, was Yuki talking about the same conflict that you were talking about, or did you have a different
No,
conflict in mind?
I'm talking about a different conflict because for me, things who Charles made or did in school, it's not a problem. The problem it's a too much clever boy.
Too clever,
Too clever, yes. With 5 or 6 years old.
That is a good point, actually.
He could invented stories about, I don't know. It's I think when you are 6 years old, you only think in to play and to watch TV and have fun, nor to tell lies your parents.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's a good point. I don't know. Do you think that? What do you think, class? Do you think that Laurie is a character?
You are thinking about what Rory is talking about Charlie is all fairy tale story, yeah?
Sorry.
He's saying it's a fairy tale.
It's all fairy tale. What Rory said about Charlie. What Rory tell his parents about Charlie. It is all fairy tale.
Fairy tale. In other words,
it's a make-up story.
Not true. Made up. Make believe.
Fiction? Invention?
Yeah.
No. He changed only the name from Charles to himself.
He changed his name to Charlie to carry out heinous crimes, which is true if you read the end of the story.
But he said he bigger than me. He don't wear even a jacket. When he described this guy, so he invent someone.
Right. So he invents details. So Charlie is different in some way. Let's take a quick look at one passage of the story. Actually, we're not going to read the whole thing because, as I mentioned, we should read. In this case, we're going to try to read before class. But let's read just one section because I want to talk a little bit about making inferences too. So look. Let's look at the very end of the story here, because it's just like half a page. So if we take a look over here, hopefully everyone can see where I am. I know it's a little bit small. I'd like just to read this. Let me just see. I'd like just to read from this part to the very end of the story. And I want to stop you after the part in blue and ask you a question. So What do you think? Can everyone see that all right? Yuki, why don't you start us off? Let's read. I'm going to just try to get one or two people to read here. Why don't you take this section here, and then I've got a question for you.
Okay.
Can you see it okay?
Okay. Yes. Just a minute. Okay. My husband came to the door with me that every evening as I set out for the PTA meeting. Invite her over for a cup of tea after the meeting. He said, I want to get a look at her.
Sorry, he's talking about the mother of Charlie before. So he's talking about Charlie's mother at the PTA meeting. By the way, PTA, do we know what that means, everyone? PTA?
Parent-teacher meeting.
That's it, parent-teacher meeting. So this is when people, when you go to school when you were a kid and all the things you didn't like, well, they all came out of the parents complaining to the school board at the PTA meeting. So there you go. Sorry, keep going, Yuki.
If only she'd there, I said prayerfully.
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 That's
she'll
it.
Be, she'll be there, my husband said. I don't see how they could hold that PTA meeting without Charlie's mother. At the meeting, I said restlessly, scanning each comfortable, matronly face, trying to determine which one hid the secret of Charlie's. None of them looked to me haggard enough. No one stood up in the meeting and apologized for the way her son had been acting. No one mentioned Charlie's.
Exactly. I want to ask a question here. If you were going to, when you were reading this the first time, right, you probably, in your mind, started to make some inferences about what's coming up next.
Yes.
When you saw that line, none of them looked haggard enough. What did that make you think? Why would she say that? None of them looked haggard enough. Do you know what that means, haggard?
Tired?
Say again? Sorry?
Tired?
Tired? Yeah, basically. Tired and maybe exhausted is an even better word. Haggard, tired, exhausted. Uh-huh.
I think now almost all parents think that Charlie is a troublemaker. So
at this point in the story, we assume that all the parents must feel the way she feels.
Yes.
Right? But no one mentions Charlie. So my question is,
they avoid the conversation about Charlie. Yeah.
Maybe, yeah. So at important passages in the story, we have to make an inference, and here is a great point to do it. So one inference you could make. When I say inference, I just mean a guess that's based on the story. So the guess, Yuki's guess here is, everyone knows that Charles is a problem, but no one wants to talk about it.
And all that they are anxious about is Charlie's influence on their children. So.
All right. So based on that, by the way, let me just ask the class, was that your guess at this point in the story? Do you remember what you were thinking? Just out of curiosity. So, Sylvia, what were you thinking by this point in the story? Just out of curiosity. Do you remember?
Yeah. I discovered a little bit before that was Charles was an imaginary child.
How did you discover that?
Uh,
You mean you guessed it? You figured it out?
yes, a
And
little bit before, because it was strange that every time he has to stay at school after school, because the other child wasn't so quiet. It was weird, I guess, before.
But there was one thing that I thought was strange, which is a little bit earlier in the story, he has this total change. Where is it?
Yeah.
This one here. So like on page 7. Yeah. So yeah, this part here. And I couldn't understand why did that happen? Like that seemed to come out of nowhere. So the parents are also confused. So if it was Laurie, why did his behavior just magically change? There must be a reason, right? But I didn't see what it was.
It's strange, yes.
It is strange. Well, let's do this. Let's just read it because it's just a few lines. Let's just read to the end of the story from there. So Sylvia, why don't you continue the next part? Because it's just a few lines. Yeah.
After the meeting, I identified and saw out Laurie's kindergarten teacher.
Sought out, just like salt and pepper. Sought out.
Sought out Laurie's kindergarten teacher. She had a plate with a cup of tea and a piece of chocolate cake. I had a plate with a cup of tea and a piece of marshmallow cake.
Yum, marshmallow.
I can read maneuvers, helped one another constantly and smiled. I've been so anxious to meet you, I said. I'm Laurie's mother. We are all so interested in Laurie, she said. Well, he certainly likes kindergarten, I said. He talks about it all the time.
We know what's coming up next. Keep going, Sylvia.
We had a little trouble adjusting the first week or so, she said primly, but now he's a fine little helper, with occasionally lapses, of course. Laurie's usually adjusts very quickly, I said. I suppose this time it's Charles' influence. Charles? Yes, I said, laughing. You must have your hands full in that kindergarten with Charles. Charles, she said. We don't have any Charles in the kindergarten.
Boom! There you go. Oh. There's the bombshell.
There you go.
So, what do you think about ending the story in this particular way? What do you think the effect is, Sarah? Were you expecting the story to end so abruptly?
Sort of, because I read a lot of short story, and ending of short story is always like this. They will give you a very surprise ending.
And why do you think so? Why do you think that's why is that so common? What's the effect? Why would it be different than maybe a novel? Just out of curiosity.
Probably it's a short story should impress people in a very special way. It's kind of a rule of short stories, I think.
So something about the short story makes it more sort of immediate, like more we say visceral, like you feel it more than think about it. Because you can read it. By the way, the great short story writer Edgar Allan Poe, you all know your Poe. Remember him? The Raven? Everyone?
No.
No? I thought that he was one of those great international Edgar Allan.
Yeah.
Oh.
I heard his name, yeah.
There you go. In America, he's sort of, how do you spell Edgar? Edgar. Oh, I forgot the D, sorry. There we go. There you go. You can see him in the chat window. People have been writing short stories before Poe, but Poe wrote The Philosophy of Composition. So he was kind of one of the first modern, sort of literary theorists because he tried to write a theory of the short story. And he was very famous for short stories. And one of the things he said, if you read it, was that a short story should be written in one sitting so that it can be read in one sitting. So I kind of agree with you, Sarah. I think that you're right. Ever since the 19th century, there's been this developing form of the short story, and in Poe's short stories and ones that are like it, okay, they're kind of dark and mysterious and kind of like little horror movies sometimes, but yeah, but there's some kind of leading up to some kind of surprise. Also, you've got the O. Henry stories, which were really famous, which always had a surprise ending. That was part of the formula of the story. Also, don't forget, all of this stuff was written in magazines until fairly recently in history. So even novels were written one chapter a week and published in magazines. So short stories had to fit into the format of the magazine. So that could be another reason. But I agree with you. Also, I couldn't imagine this story ending in any other way. It's like it's meant to be. We're meant to think about it. Let me go back to the questions for a moment, because I think we had a good discussion based on Daniel's question. Did anyone else prepare any questions from the categories at the end? You did, didn't you, Shadow?
Teacher, I had a question. I don't know what the answer really.
Okay.
It's about this. Laurie invents this character that Charlie's. I don't know if he invents that because he fan of what he did or not. Because when you read the story, you find he said, "Bad Charlie," or when he talking about what he did. So he used to say "Bad Charlie," and sometimes he said, "Charlie stays after school again," and all children did. Like, he proud of him, and all children supported him. And when you read it again, you find that when that teacher came in a class and asked boys to touch their toes, Laurie said that he did, and Charlie didn't. So
So hang on a second. About the staying after school part, I found that in the text. So, but let's see if we can take a look at both of those quickly. 1 second. I'm going to share my screen, and let's take a quick look. So, Charles yelled so in school. They sent a boy from the first grade to tell the teacher she had to make Charles keep quiet. And so Charles had to stay after school. And so all the children stayed to watch him. So you're saying that Charles, which is the surrogate for Laurie, is something that Laurie is proud of. Is that what you mean?
There's another one when the teacher punched him and asked him to stay and ask the boys don't talk to him, and he said the boy didn't do what the teacher said. I want to find it here.
Do you know where it is?
I don't know really, but I will find it.
Okay. So what do we think? First of all, that's a good question for our category questions at the end. I'm not exactly sure how to ask it, but maybe it could be something like this. It's a character question, right? So basically what you're saying is, tell me if I got the question right, Shadow. What you're saying is Laurie, listen, this is how I would ask your question. Is Laurie acting out, or is he being creative? Meaning, is he proud of his, is he proud of his creation? I would ask your question like that, because maybe the question is it so simple just to say that he's behaving badly and he doesn't want to take the blame for it? Because what you're saying is there's evidence in the story that he's proud of what he's doing, right? Is it just that he wants attention, or is Laurie a secret genius, a little James Joyce, who's creating an alternate personality, and somehow it's not just about acting out, it's about expressing himself in some way? Because that could be, that could be a really good point. Here's what I would say, then I'll ask the class. I would say there might be some evidence for that, because look at the way he is able to control his family. It reminds me of things that I used to do when I was a kid. I didn't used to punch people, but I remember being a kid and having this imagination and making things up all the time. But look what he's able to do as a result. The family is completely drawn into his story, and it sort of takes over their lives in a small way, because this is a short story and it's a short period of time. So maybe you're right. Maybe in a way it's sort of more than just behaving badly. On the psychological side, it seems like he just wants attention. But maybe it's a little bit more than that. I don't know. What do you think about that theory? That Laurie is an artist and he's a performance artist.
I agree with you with this idea. I think every child is somewhat imaginary. Every child has imaginary things in their mind, and there is a tendency for children to play with imaginary things in their mind. And sometimes it such a imaginary playing going too far. So in this case, Charlie was a imaginary boy in Rory's mind. Yeah. But by talking about Charlie to their children, to his parents every day, Charlie was getting bigger and bigger in Rory's mind. So and children is somewhat cruel. So I think maybe Rory has a mental problem in his mind, a mental problem, and that's why he create some kind of cruel scene with Charlie and play with him.
Let me just say a quick hello to. I have no idea what your name is because I can't read it. But JHGDS, who is this? Just because I didn't say hello to you earlier in the class. So on my screen, you're between Daniel and Sarah. Can you just say your name for me? Sorry, Yuki, I'm going to get back to your point in just a second. I just wanted to say a quick hello to our friend here.
Hi.
Hello. What's your name?
My name is Abdullah.
Abdul. Okay, got it. Because I just see on the screen JHGDS. I didn't know what to call you. Hello, Abdul.
Thank you. That's my name.
Very good. So, Abdul, in the last class, basically we read the story, the one that I'm showing you on the screen and the one that I gave you the link for in the chat window. We've already read the story, and what we're doing is discussing it by looking at some questions that we came up with earlier. Yesterday I sent an email to everyone and asked them to think of some questions that they knew the answer to or that they would like to discuss. Just so you know what we're doing, okay? If you haven't read the story, it'll be a little hard to participate, okay? But You're welcome to stay in and join the discussion or just listen, whatever you prefer. Okay? So
Okay.
let me ask the class. Yuki brought up an interesting point. What do you think, class? Do you think that Lori is schizophrenic?
Yeah.
Anna, what do you think? You've been very quiet. What do you think about Laurie as a character? Do you think he has a problem, or is he just expressing himself?
Well, I think that the problem was himself because he began to lie
Right.
to avoid maybe a punishment for his parents.
Exactly. Yeah.
They feel a lack of confidence. Um, he doesn't want the truth, because he doesn't adjusting to kindergarten. He was who did all things that he
We would
tell
say he was the
you.
one. He was the one who did all these things. He was the one.
Yes, to his parents.
So, do you think? I'm asking the whole class this question. Do you think that he's really doing these things? If he invented Charles, maybe he invented all of these cruel things that he's doing to the other classmates. Do you think he's really punching people and saying bad words, or do you think he's exaggerating? Just out of curiosity.
I think he is exaggerating something. Yeah, he made up the part of story. That's what I think. Because if he really has done all of the things that he said to his parents, that means kindergarten should give a call to his parents to tell what happened. At least update their son's situation in kindergarten, but they
Right.
didn't. That means maybe at the beginning it was a real story. Then he just Charlie just felt that he got the attention of his parents, and he was enjoying in making up stories. So he just made the last part of it. The
Absolutely.
rest of it. Yeah.
So maybe the point here is that as Anna said, he started to cover up. He didn't want to get in trouble, so he lied. But then something seemed to happen. His lie seemed to affect his parents. That brings us back to the point of view question, because earlier it said, Daniel said, oh, from your point of view. Well, let's talk about the point of view of the story. Whose point of view is the story told from, obviously? Who's the narrator?
Mother.
The husband.
The mother. The
Mother.
mother.
Sorry.
Not the husband, right? Because she says my husband, right? Okay. So we get to know her thoughts. What do we think about her as a character? Would you describe her as, is she a good parent? Is she cruel? Is she naive? What kind of person do you think she is?
She feels lonely because her children is getting bigger. Now she thought the signs the signs still little. He nursery school boy, but now he began to go to school. So she feel her son is getting separated, getting far from her.
Why do you think she's lonely? Really? I didn't get that sense in the story.
It's a
Was there a
feeling of
particular part?
it's a feeling of loneliness that every mother feels when their children getting older
So you think?
and in, independent.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm not sure if I agree with you.
Yeah.
Weird.
There is such a sentence that in the first of this story, mother think that sweet voice nursery school taught replaced by long trousered Sogen character.
Right.
Forgot to stop at the corner and wave goodbye to me.
Right. But don't you think? See, well, I don't want to give you my opinion. I want to hear the class's opinion. I think what Yuki's pointing out is a really good character description in the beginning. It's really good. I like the way the story begins and I like the way it ends. Actually, it's structured very well. She's a very plot-oriented writer. What do you think about the beginning? What do you think about that passage? Does it say something about the mother, or does it say something only about Lori? What do you think? Sarah, you were going to make a comment earlier. So he's reading the very first paragraph of the story.
You want me to read it?
No, you don't have to read it. I'm just saying that's what Yuki's pointing to.
Okay.
We can take a quick.
Yeah.
Let me take a quick look. Hold on a second here.
Okay.
Right? So he's reading from this part. The day my son Laurie started kindergarten, he renounced corduroy overalls with bibs and began wearing blue jeans with a belt. I watched him go off the first morning with the older girl next door, seeing clearly that an era of my life was ended. My sweet-voiced nursery school tot is like little baby, replaced by a long-trousered, swaggering character who forgot to stop at the corner and wave goodbye to me. Well, I certainly see what you mean, because she talks about this era of my life that ended.
Mm-hmm. Maybe she was happy because it ended.
Maybe Laurie was such a little jerk she couldn't wait to get rid of him. Is that what you mean?
I mean, maybe she can have some. She's a long time with her friends or go out. She doesn't need to stay at home all the time with his child anymore.
Ah, so maybe she's getting her life back.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. Seeing clearly that an era of my life was ended. It does seem a little nostalgic to me, so I'm not quite sure. But look at this word. I said this earlier, but I'll say it again. Renounced. If you go down to the bottom of the document, that's the very first word in the vocabulary exercise I gave you. And what I asked you to do, if you could, and we can do it together, was to find the sentence where it's from. That we can do really easily. Make a guess about what it means, and then ultimately it's to say what it has to do with the story to get the meaning. But let's take a look at that since we're talking about that sentence. So the sentence, I'll write it here so you can see it. It's probably not going to all fit in. Oh no, it didn't copy? Uh-oh, hold on. Give me a second. Let me see if I can copy this. I don't know if it'll let me copy. 1 second. Well, okay, actually, it's going to take too long. I'll just read it. So it's that sentence. The day my son Laurie started kindergarten, he renounced corduroy overalls. He renounced them. So, if you look at that vocabulary exercise, it's meant to teach you a skill. The skill is this. Find the word in the context, so find the sentence, guess what it means, right? You can put a definition or an example there to help you. But then there's another question, which I didn't put in the chart, which is why is that particular word used? So now we know the position. Now, hello? What's going on? I'm going to have to mute you, Abdullah, because we just hear your phone conversation. Whoops. Did I mute him or did I kick him out? I didn't mean to kick him out. I think I just accidentally kicked him out. Sorry, Abdullah. I just meant to mute you. Whoops.
No, you didn't kick him. Yeah, he just sent out or something. Okay. He closed the window.
Yeah, but I think I might have ejected him by mistake. Sorry, Abdullah. Didn't mean to eject you. Okay, anyway. So that word renounce, this is a good example because this is meant to teach you a skill. The skill is how to learn vocabulary from the context. That's really what we're doing. So go back to that sentence and just make a guess, make an educated guess about why that particular word is used. So let's take a look at the sentence. Again, I'll put it on screen for you. And give me your guess. Why is the word renounced used? What does renounce mean? Can you say it in your own words?
Mm-hmm.
Announce again.
So, announce again. Shadow, what were you going to say?
Abandon.
Abandoned.
Okay.
All right. Everyone agree? Disagree?
I disagree.
With?
I
With
think
which?
this in this case, renounce means give up idea, refuse.
Refuse.
Refuse to put a code overall.
Refuse. Yeah, absolutely. And Shadow, I think Shadow's right too. Abandon.
Shadow is right. Okay.
Shadow, what does he abandon?
He abandoned the clothes for kids.
His baby clothes, we say.
Yeah.
Yeah, he abandons his baby clothes. So it's true that he refuses the corduroy. That's true. But even more than that, what's he doing? Why did she say renounce? Why does she say that particular word?
Because he think now he's getting older, and now he think it is all very childish.
Exactly.
He wants to be more adult.
He thinks he's an adult now. He's grown up. Did this ever happen to any of you? I remember so clearly when I was 7 years old. I remember very clearly. Me and my friend, we were looking at the second graders. They were like a foot taller than the rest of us. We were in first grade. We were looking at them at the bus stop. I remember this. This is like how many? This is like 35 years ago. I remember this. We were looking at the second graders, and we were thinking, me and my best friend, and we were saying, wow, they're so much bigger than us. Well, this is it. We've got to grow up. Next year we're going to be in second grade. And I was convinced that adulthood started at 7.5 years old. I was absolutely convinced about that. So I think that maybe Laurie's going through a little phase like that where or maybe he just wants to assert his personality. On one hand he's growing up, but on the other hand it's a clue, just like Charles is a clue, right? That he's trying to define himself in some way. So maybe that's part of the reason for Charles's existence. Maybe he's trying to define himself. But of course, Yuki, you made a point, because he forgot to stop at the corner and wave goodbye to me. Kind of seems like it says as much about the mother as it does about the kid. So it's a really good opening paragraph, actually. Let me go back for a minute to the questions. We have maybe time for one more question from the group. Sylvia, I'm absolutely sure that you prepared a question. I'm absolutely sure. So
Yeah.
I'm just curious, which context, which of those categories did you prepare a question for?
No, I haven't prepared a question, but okay.
Oh, about the conflict. Okay, that's good. So what was your question? Or
Okay.
was it about the theme? Or was it about the theme?
The question, okay, theme. Do you think that this theme is actual? The theme of
okay.
the story.
Okay, let's just define theme, though. Do you think this theme is actual? Which theme do you mean?
The children that are like no, they are like I don't know in English the term.
Misbehaving?
Yes,
Okay.
at school.
Okay, how about this? How about the behavioral theme? How about
They
that?
are like gangster at school.
You mean like bullying?
Yes.
That's actually a really good point, you know? That's a really good question. Because now that if you say the word bullying, that's in the media all the time. It's really annoying, actually. Is bullying really what did you say? Up to date?
Actual.
Not actual, but up to date is better. Up to date. Actual doesn't quite mean the same. Actual for us in English means real, but in a Latin language it means contemporary.
Yes.
So, but it's a false friend. In English it doesn't mean that. It means real. So we have to say up to date. Is bullying really an up to date issue? Is it as important now as then, or vice versa? That's a really good question. It really is, because you see so much in the media about bullying. I've never in my life imagined that this would become an international issue. It's in the States, it's here in Europe, it's talked about an awful lot, as if there's a change in consciousness about, about cruelty. But I don't know. I feel that it's very much a fashion. I don't know how if it's really being dealt with in a serious way. But by the way, where do you think the bullying issue comes from? Like, you see it in this story, but why do you think it's such an issue these days? Just out of curiosity, what do you think? Class, I'm asking all of you, not no one in particular.
Yes, indeed, bullying is really a hot theme now, especially in Japan. Now, now in Japan, a number of children are getting little and little. So many family has only one child, and they indulge, many parents now indulge their children,
Spoil your children.
spoil their children,
right?
By yes, so children is often selfish, and they are tend to bully other children in the school. That become a social problem now.
So you think it's because of the diminishing size of the family in Japan?
Yes, I think
that's interesting.
That problem is closely connected to the aging society and the decreasing number of population.
Let me ask a quick question to Anna. Hello, Anna. Are you there?
Hello.
Hello. Do you think that bullying was an issue a long time ago? I'm asking because in this story, which was written a long time ago, they don't use the word bullying, but in fact, that's kind of what it's about. Do you think it was an issue years ago the way it is today? I mean, we didn't hear the word so much. Do you think that attitudes have changed?
Yes, in my opinion, I believe that it was less important than now. Today, it have changed. Is a big problem in society.
Do you have kids, Hannah?
Yes, but they are older.
Of course. How old are they now? Very old.
Yes, the older is 35 years old, and the youngest 30.
And do they get bullied?
Nowadays, no.
Nowadays? No. Okay.
No,
Okay.
no. I am sure. But when they was younger, they had some problems
Absolutely.
in this type of questions.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you because I knew that your kids would be older, and I was curious when they were in kindergarten. What was this an issue? So it sounds like it wasn't really, people weren't conscious of it back then when they were kids. They're a little bit younger than me, just a bit. So when I was in kindergarten, no one talked about this. It was just not even an issue. By the way, a second question: does Shirley Jackson's story have something to say about this issue? So Sylvia, you brought it up. What's your answer to your own question? Is bullying really up to date?
Yes.
Do you think that Shirley Jackson has something to say about it?
I think nowadays it's really different because when she wrote the story are only one child and okay they are a kind of also smart child children, and now it's more a group issue.
Yeah, that's true. It's not seen as like a psychological problem of an individual anymore. It's a group issue. It's true. Yeah, I agree. By the way, I think that what happened was, I think that in America, since the Columbine shootings, from that point on, bullying became an issue. Because before, and then these shootings that happen, it seems like there's one a year, but they keep happening. And suicides also, all of that seemed to come out since Columbine, which was like 99, something like that. So it just seems like in the last 15 years, I'm American, so I'm talking about it from my point of view. In Europe, I don't know if anything particular happened, but it seems like it started with that. And then it became, suddenly people were taking it seriously. Because there were the shootings, but then there were all these suicides as a result of bullying of older kids. And that's when it seemed to become something serious, and as you said, like a sociological issue, not an individual one. I hate to leave things on that note because it's a little bit negative, but I have to start the next class. So I'm going to stop here and start the next class, and I'll have to see about what we're going to do on Thursday. I'm not exactly sure yet. But it was a very interesting discussion. So we can talk about doing the class in this format, and if you like it, if the structure is good, we can work in this way in the future to have more of a discussion time. I'll be right back for the business class in about 30 seconds. Bye for now, everyone. Sorry to cut you off. Bye for now.